But yeah, sure. In the meantime, the question: does this MGA 2020 zone 55 with AHD, does it have an EPSG code or not?
Yes, it does.
Because I would assume that
there's
there's
the EPSG codes further on. That's just a name for them. But was there any decided? I think there was something someone posted ages ago. Was if you have one zone or one thing that includes the others, you only put it once, or sometimes the EPSG code includes the horizontal and the vertical. And yes, if it includes both, do you leave out the others, or? But what's wrong with this one though? That's just a name, that first thing though. Isn't that first thing just the name you give it? The MGA 2020 zone 55?
It does state in the schema that should be a name. That is correct.
But it's any old name though. It's nothing.
No, it does state in the documentation. Wait a second, let me get. I even have the new documentation here. Wow, reacted CRS. I think it states somewhere. Oh, there. No, that's geodetic data. Name. The name shall be taken from a list recognized by the EPSG to then be qualified by the EPSG namespace, for example, as EPSG something something.
So you have to put that in, which is then repeated later on.
Well,
so it seems a bit stupid, doesn't it? Unless, is there a name, or is there a name in the EPSG they call it? I'd have to look.
That's why my question was: does this combination have an EPSG code?
It possibly would, but I thought that code was up further anyway.
Well, the MGA is here probably, right, and the AHD is here.
Yeah, is there exactly. So
yes,
what's the name then when these are the two that do it? It's just if there's not a one EPSG code, then what should you have for the name?
That's a question I don't have an answer to. So I can at least show you what the checker expects.
Yep.
So the checker expects that your CRS name has a regular expression of EPSG colon.
But is that what the doco says? Because didn't your doco say if one exists?
It says exactly. The name shall be taken.
Shall be taken. But if it doesn't exist, what do you do?
Let's ask Evandro. Because it also says, for example, if an EPSG code does not exist, then it should be WKT. So even the checker is not that strict, or perhaps it's too strict.
So is that saying that even if you've got the two others that describe it, you still have to put in a WKT for it?
That's my interpretation. Yeah, which is I'm not happy with this one either. Yeah, I just realized that that's in here. Let's have a look at.
I mean, up until now, I've assumed that name is more of a text name, just like anything else that humans could look at and recognize.
That's the description about.
That's the description, right? Yeah. So, yep, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Yeah.
So WKT should be in there.
Ooh.
Which I don't like either. Wait a second. We need to take this issue to.
Or it should be left probably blank if you've got them things later.
It's the name attribute isn't. It's optional. That's the new one, but okay. Okay, so here we have the same nodes. The name shall be taken. The name shall be WKT if an EPSG code does not exist for the CRS.
Right. So in this case, we should be leaving it out then. It's optional, so we just leave it out.
That would probably be better. Yeah. I
Yep,
mean, I was
yep,
also playing around with the idea of having it comma separated if you have like a combination of still well-known
Yep.
EPSGs, right? So that we would have EPSG 7855, comma EPSG 5711, the same way as GIS or the GML part of the world does it.
Yes, because we have got the description there where it says IHG vertical. Yeah, so right. So the moment that first one is optional. Sorry, I was thinking of the name where I should have been talking about description. So yeah, that first one, if it should be optional, we now just leave it out if there's not a EPSG code to cover it.
And Michelle, let's take this to discuss also in our team, because I believe, I mean, we need to wait perhaps for a week because the Building Smart International is proposing some changes to this part of the schema for ISO. So I'm not sure what they will be proposing.
You believe there is something around this being discussed?
I think Evandro has been changing at least the documentation. I'm not sure what has been changed because I don't know where that is to look at.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. What is there?
I can ask Thomas whether he knows.
Yeah, especially since I believe they've already added geographic CRS here, so they're probably. I'm not sure if they've changed already something or not, or
specifically on that one concept, on that one specification.
I mean, because this one last changed here was in September last year, so
that was before ISO submission.
Yeah, and this one the same date. So I'm not sure where those changes are, if there are any.
So if we just left that out, just put $1 in there, everything should be right.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we should do this. Yes.
In theory, yeah, but the checker will still complain. But I need to change the checker for that.
Yeah. But it makes sense to have $1 there. That's if there is a EPSG code that covers both, then you leave. That was the other question I suppose people asked. Do you leave out the two separate ones? Do you only have one of the?
Those are just as an additional information. I would still fill them if you know the information, because they're not being. I mean, they are sort of then redundant information, but they are not contradicting information.
Yep. Yeah, I think that was a question that some Australian asked ages ago, but we never ever did answer.
So if I continue, everything's passing, then we have the referent nesting, which is, I believe, Adam, exactly what I've shown in, where do I have it? In my pull request, the thing I changed that you're not aware of course, because it's still a pull request. This is why we need to merge it, but what we were requesting is that IFC reference are linearly placed. So a referent, its object placement shall be an IFC linear placement. And the placement rel2 of that placement shall point to the alignment it is nested within.
And this is a tunnel. This is a tunnel thing, isn't it, or a 4.4 thing?
That's something that we believe should be in 4.3.
Yeah, but we don't know yet.
But we don't know yet. So this is why all your references are failing here, Adam.
Yep.
But conceptually,
I thought I had done it, but yeah, have a look at it.
But maybe then just conceptually, Lee, would you think that this way we're proposing is providing clarity?
I'd probably ask Adam that question. It sounded all okay to me. Does it make sense to you, Adam, to have the?
Yep. So it does have the linear placement. What's maybe that's not in the one. Okay.
I'm just looking. What's 49? 49 is an alignment, which is great.
Should be the alignment. Yep.
But you need to be relative to its placement, not to your relative to the local placement of probably site or something.
I think that's just like the global placement, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Top level one.
So this this number 14 should be the one from the alignment.
Yeah.
Okay.
And oh yeah, look, there's a where rule. There's a schema verification. Ha, it works. Yes. Sorry, Adam.
Yeah, what was that?
Happy to test it.
So those are the correct items for type is if I look at let's see shape representation, you know that you have these full tables here, right? And there's a where rule, correct items for type, that checks that the items that you've provided are according to the representation type that you have provided. So there's a function. I know that is like I had problems compiling it, so that's why I know about this function. But it basically checks that, you know, if you said, let's see what's failing exactly. 93. The number 93 is failing because you say you have an axis and it's a curve 2D, and you're giving it an 88, and an 88 is a curve segment. So it checks for curve 2D. What is allowed here is that you have an IFC curve that has a dimensionality of 2. However, I know, because I've been involved in this, an IFC curve segment is not an IFC curve, but it's an IFC segment. So in order for you to pass, so IFC curve segment is, I think, the correct representation, but you need to change from curve 2D to the segment string.
Yeah.
Is that something that has been introduced recently?
So I think segment is there for some time already, but the descendants of segment, which is like the IFC curve segment, have been added by 4.3, I believe. Yeah, it got added in 4.3.
And the where rule?
The where rule is there since the beginning,
4.3.
I think.
Okay.
So this is a new function 2x. It's not even 2x3. It was added before 2x3.
All right. Okay.
And a lot of stuff has been added since in the function, but the function is there for quite some time.
Adam,
So I assume all of these have the same
problem.
Yep.
Adam, did you have the semantic definition there, or just the geometry?
Yep. So I think Peter's got a call that will generate the geometry. So I think that's what it is, and I think we're just using quite an old version of that. So we can update the engine and see if it does any better.
Yeah. I think Peter fixed that. Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yep.
And then what else?
And that'll just be the it's not pointing at the same spatial placement for the tunnel part and the tunnel, I think. But that was one I was expecting, I think.
So the tunnel part is just globally placed. Yeah. You're not, I mean, you're not that you're not allowed to do that by schema, of course, by all means, but in the concept templates then restrict this. So if you aggregate this in a tunnel, then your tunnel part has to be placed relatively to the tunnel.
Yeah.
And if you aggregate tunnel in the project, then the tunnel, of course, has this global placement. That's fine, because you need to start somewhere, this cascading local placements. But the tunnel part being in the tunnel has to be relatively placed to the tunnel. Sorry, Lee, you wanted to ask something?
We were just testing you out there to make sure you pick that one up.
Of course. Definitely. I'm really happy.
That was the one.
So yeah, with that, Adam, I'll try and be very active in clicking approve and run, and we need to merge this soon so that we don't need to click anymore, and you're just gonna submit and get the results immediately.
Yep, well, that'll be good.
Yep. Perfect.
Very good.
Any other questions, concerns?
No, that's definitely plenty to work on.
And thanks again, Adam, for providing that. Very very
Thanks for going through it.
comprehensive.
It was very helpful.
Right.
Good. Then with that, I think we can adjourn for this morning. And
Thank you very much for your time.
thanks to you for your time, Adam.
Thank you for your in-kind contributions. It's really, it means a lot to us that you're testing this out, and that you're pinpointing us to the mistakes, and not necessarily mistakes, but just incompleteness in the documentation. So if you find something else, please put forward. That's why we're here.
Well, until next week.
Indeed. Yep.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Have a good day.
Have a nice
your other
evening.
meeting, your big meeting.
Have fun coding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Public repository. There's some documentation here. There's a lot more if you click on here. So there's a about README where everything is explained. But the main idea is that we go through 3 levels of implementation. So you're joining us in the middle of the second level. The first level was more on the project usages, so how to set up a file, how to set up the project units, how to set up the context and everything around the project. Second level that we're currently in is, sub project usages, so to say. So, is there any spatial structures, any linear structure in the file? Are there groupings? Do we have an alignment? Still sort of setting up the backbone of the file of the exchange. And with the level 3 that we're gonna commence beginning of June, we're gonna go into real tunnel specific concepts, tunnel specific stuff, as in, for example, some geometries, materials, classification. We've already defined classification, but we haven't used it, for example. So project does declare a classification, but now then we're gonna be assigning it to objects and so forth. Yeah. You're currently joining us here for every Thursday. We have this meeting at 6 p.m. We also have one at 8 a.m. The same thing. We try to convey the messages, and we have those 2 meetings to accommodate for all the time zones. What else? I think there's the project plan is what Michelle has shown. So I need to upload a new one that states that today is not in January. So it should be somewhere here in beginning of May. And here you can see what kind of concepts we were focusing, for example, in this first phase for the project setup, what kind of concept we are now focusing in the second phase in the project structure. And then, of course, for the third phase, we're going to be doing many concepts in parallel. If a software is more focusing on geotechnics, on geological stuff, then they perhaps don't have an alignment support, but they have a lot of support for geotechnical stuff. But in other software that perhaps only take a terrain model but do a lot of 3D alignment, we're going to be focusing on that part. We plan to wrap up in November. I think let's say that the goal is to have a really cool presentation in Lillestrøm. And is it in Lillestrøm? I think it's in Lillestrøm in autumn, the summit of Building Smart International.
Oh yeah, that's where I live, Lillestrøm.
Perfect. So you should be very active to show off then. Yeah, so the summit is coming to Norway in autumn. There was one in Rome last month. Yeah. How does it work? In the sprints directory, there's a documentation for each of the sprints. And for example, if I take the sprint 1.2, it tells you which sprints you should have accomplished until now. It also tells you which kind of dates we were dealing with, and then it tells you what we're expecting with the link. So for example, in sprint 1.2, we expected the participants to implement project classification information, which I'm gonna open in a separate tab, which tells that an IFC project associates classification, and this classification should have a source, a name, and a reference token. I believe what we've said that it should associate IFC classification with a non-empty source and name attributes. What kind of content is there? We don't care. But it has to have something in there. Similar thing for spatial decomposition. You should have a site or a facility aggregated in the project. That's it. And also georeferencing. And this is what you can read through for all of the sprints. For example, if I open the current sprint, sprint 2.2, so we're, I believe, at a halfway point currently. We are expecting that there should be product local placement implemented for tunnel parts and tunnel. Then we are expecting participants to have some sort of alignment geometry in their file. So that's the alignment horizontal, alignment vertical. Then you should be using gradient curve. If you have horizontal, vertical, and cant, then you should be using IFC segmented reference curve, and that all IFC alignments should have an additional 2D representation, which is the composite curve. Then what we're also expecting is element nesting, so that reference are linearly placed according to the product linear placement concept template, so that that they use a linear placement. Sergey, you wanted to add something?
No.
Oh, sorry, I just saw your name pop up on the screen. That's why I thought you wanna add to this explanation. So what we invite you to do, Eirik, is basically read through the sprints and see how well your IFC export is current. So I believe you're going to be more focusing on the export, since you're, let's say, a design software for alignments and signal positioning and stuff. So read through them and see how much is it supported. And what we also told our participants, if there are concepts that are just not present in your software that you cannot export because you don't have such functionality, just tell us that you're not able to provide such information. Now comes the question, of course, how can you contribute? There's a files directory here where all the software vendors are asked to open their own directory and submit their own files. So for example, if we look at Beaver Control, he has already submitted something for 2.2. It has an IFC file that is continuously being improved upon. He also provided here a README, so that's Ivar provided the README as to how the alignment should look like, just for if anybody is going to be reading this data to understand. Well, if you get some sort of this result, then we're good to go. These files are all publicly available, so you can look at other vendor files. I believe Sequent did a 1.1, for example, file. There's also an IfcTunnel, so this Austria provided a separate file for each of the sprints, which is fine as well. What I wanted to show is, this. Oh, sorry, you also have files by the project team, quite many of them. Thank you, Lars, for providing this many. And you can also look through them. They are each up to the corresponding sprint. So they are each passing up to the corresponding sprint as denoted in the file name. And how can you submit a file? First of all, you need a GitHub account, of course. And then what we request is that you make your own fork. So for example, I have my own fork here. Then you can submit through a pull request from your fork, and that's where the checker is going to be started. So if I look at the file that Lars has provided now for sprint 2.2, you're going to see that you get a pull request template that we ask you to fill in. So what kind of usages you've managed to support. Also to make a note if you are not supporting usage. For example, if you don't have tunnels in your software, then of course it's hard for you to export an IfcTunnel. So you can tell, this is definitely going to fail the checker, but we can override the checker as the reviewers. So with that, you see Lars had some process, but then at some point we were good, we were green, but also the checker had some problems. So it's not only Lars here. And you get your results. For example, I think if I open this one, it's gonna, yeah. So you can look through the results in this summary tab, where you get a list of, what kind of usages the file did not comply to. And we can, of course, discuss. It's always possible that the checker has a problem. Lars really likes to point out checker problems. He really makes good files.
You too. Thank you, Stefan. You too.
Oh, come on. It's, who checks the checker? We do. And every participant. So it is possible that something is not being reported correctly. But in the end, what we, of course, all envision is that you get a green tick. You have complied with all the usages. And of course, if you know that you're not complying with some, and you have told us that you're not complying with some, you're gonna get a red cross. But don't be alarmed. We're gonna override the checker and say, yeah, okay, it's still fine, because for the rest of the usages where you've said that you're supporting, if none of those is failing, you're good to go. Did I miss anything? Lars, Sergey, Michelle?
I think it was a good summary.
Any questions from you, Eirik?
No.
You are familiar with this way of coordinating with BSI, correct?
To some degree, but our company hasn't worked that structured with sprints and uploading documents.
Okay.
So
Eirik, if you wish, I can also help you in the next days to make your fork and first pull request, and it's probably going to be self-explanatory.
yeah, I probably need a bit assistance. Yeah.
And you confirm, Eric, that you use the geometry gym library, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
And with that, I would also like to ask Kazunori if you have any questions. Open mic. So Eirik, these Thursday meetings are always open mic. Ask questions regarding the sprint, regarding previous sprints, regarding tunnels.
Not really on sprints. I'm not there yet, so I have to spend some more time to really understand things. But yeah, since Lars is here, I just wanted to ask Lars that about the geotech properties. You are happy with the answer I gave you?
I followed your response there, and there is already one pull request for that, including many pull requests for book A. There's a lot of psets, so it's ready for review and hopefully merging. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
No, thank you.
Stefan, I was wondering, could we advise Eric to submit some existing 4.3 files that they create, so they get a sort of an initial process going, and see what the checker says.
Yes, most definitely. That's also what I would have proposed if Arik and myself make a session, that we just start with whatever comes out of very complete software to just submit it and see what the checker does. So also something to consider, while we are working on the IFC 4.4 schema, the checker is not very strict on that. So you can also submit 4.3 files and they're still going to get checked. Perhaps this is also something that we could slowly start requiring as a project. But currently the checker, this functionality is just turned off. So checker ignores the schema and just makes the best of it. And for the if you're wondering what kind of data you need to put in, that's all up to you. What we're checking is really more the structure of the file than the contents of it. You're gonna also see in the readmes of the sprints, it usually stated, you know, the name shall not be empty, but whatever you want to put in there is fine. So empty strings are not allowed, but if you put a in it, it's fine.
Yeah, okay, I understand. Yeah, so it would be helpful for us as well to test the export.
Definitely, yes. I'm gonna put this link to the repository in the chat, and you can already click on the org button, the top right, and of course star it. No, you don't need to star it, but fork is a must.
So again, Eric, many of those concepts that were covered in the Sprint 1.x and are things I'm sure you already know well of, producing 4.3 files, and that's okay. Of course, that's ideal. With 2.1 and 2.2, we start to introduce some new concepts. But if you have had any questions in the past dealing with 4.3, I don't know, alignments or whatsoever, linear composition, linear placement, and you would like to bring these up here in the context of those support calls, please do not hesitate. We as Stefan said, we rely as much on your expertise with IFC and, you know, what you've been facing to improve what exists and to clarify what exists, clean up what exists, and extend upon what exists, of course. So it's really a win-win thing. So it's a two-way communication. We are not teaching you. We are sharing with you our views and our propositions for optimization or extensions. But you know, all the developers, all the software vendors are part of the team to run this and lead to the 4.4 release.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to testing the files and discussing concepts.
Good. Okay. Good. Anything else we would like to share with Eric, just to make him feel good? Maybe when you'll be looking, we are at the stage where we are extending the schema with the domain-specific objects classes properties. So this is an exercise that we are doing right now. So that part will extend, but that may be for the few sprints to come. Yep, but for now, again, if you can maybe start with, you know, just submitting existing files you have there and there, and we'll see what the checker says, and we'll take it from there. So we have two
Yep.
sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon on every Thursday. So you're not obliged to attend. Of course, you just attend if need be, and of course you can carry on getting in contact with our team through the GitHub platform. Of course, don't wait until the following Thursday to raise up questions. Yep. Okay. And again, any suggestions for improving what documentation as it exists today? Feel free. More than welcome. That's exactly the purpose of the exercise.
Yeah. I could tell right now our focus is a stationing part. We are trying to understand how we can use IVC. And,
Okay.
For placing reference markers and understanding the station value, for example, that is part of the property sets.
Okay.
I think we're getting there, right,
Yeah.
Sergey? It's going to be. We haven't covered that yet, so you haven't missed anything yet, Henrik.
Yeah.
So far we have the reference, but we haven't sort of stationed them yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, unless Kanuzari, you'd have one particular question, I would, and if not, I would suggest we adjourn. It's already 35. I didn't realize we had spent half an hour together already, but that is nice. So we can adjourn the session today, and we'll talk with each other next week, Thursday, 8 o'clock or 6 p.m. As you wish, and of course, get in touch in the meantime. Yep. Thank you, Dan.
Yes, sounds great.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.